Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with Dr. Mike Jones this morning, who's the MD of Impact Minerals. And if you want to hear our thoughts on their conversation, their plans going forward, and indeed the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. Where you can also find detailed company reports. There is commentary from market experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. There are training videos on there to help you do your analysis just a little bit better. There are summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you a little bit of time. And of course, why don't you join our thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas in a nice, safe environment. That's cruxinvestor.com/club. And of course, we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, leave your comments below. And if you want to see what we talked about today, take a look in the description. Mike, how you doing, sir?
Yep, very good. Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here on Crux.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. First time we've spoken, first time we've met or heard this story, so looking forward to it. So where in the world are you? You're looking very sunny with that shirt on.
I know, well, I'm in Perth in Western Australia, so it's COVID-free central, and it's a stinking hot day. So summer's arrived with a vengeance this week. And so we've got the summer uniform on.
Beautiful,
and,
beautiful.
It's about time too. Pretty cool up until now. So
now you've abandoned us. You're originally from the UK, and you left and you never came back.
That's exactly right. Well, I'm here for a reason. The sun, it's here now. So I did my studies at Imperial College, both my degrees, and as I was finishing my PhD, a mid-tier mining company called Western Mining Corporation, or WMC Resources as they became, offered me a job and a visa. And as I was riding up, and so I came out here in '88. There was a mini boom on. They couldn't get geologists to work, Australian geologists to work for them. So I was one of the original cheap immigrant labourers, and been here ever since. So it's been great.
Yeah, and I notice you've lost the accent as well. I mean, I got to ask you this question: when you come back home at Christmas to see your family, and you've had a few drinks, does it get a bit more English?
It certainly does, Governor. Yeah.
Mine gets a little bit more Irish. There we go. Well, look, thanks for joining us today. I do appreciate it. But before we kind of get into the conversation, why don't you kick off, give everyone new to the story a 1-minute overview, if you don't mind.
Sure. Look, Impact Minerals is a junior explorer. We're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and we're exploring primarily for precious metals, gold, silver, but in particular at the moment, platinum group metals. And they're associated with nickel and copper. And then we also have quite a significant exploration program for copper gold. So two different deposit styles, if you like. They're both in Eastern Australia, and we've been very active on one of those projects at Broken Hill. We've been drilling now for 5 months, and lots of results coming in. But we really founded Impact to find the big win. We're a grassroots explorer at heart. And we're not a project generator as such. To try and get joint venturers, we're there for the big win. And those things are difficult; they're few and far between. And we're plugging away, looking for that big win to give the shareholders the return that they're really looking for. Okay,
so thanks for explaining that. So I guess the sign behind you, high-grade mineral exploration within Australia is the clue. But at the same time, you kind of seem to be hedging your bets because you got a lot of optionality on the table as to what you're after and how you're going to go about doing it. And I guess in this climate, that's probably no bad thing. Why don't you try, if you don't mind, could you explain to me what you guys have set out to do? I'm interested in the story today as opposed to what's gone on before, because you've kind of got a long history of exploration in different parts of the world, Botswana, Turkey, etc. But as of today, what's the business plan? What are you setting out to do?
Yeah. So when I was working at Western Mining all those years ago, we had a plethora of very clever people there. I was probably one of the least clever, and we spent a lot of time and money sort of working on target generation philosophies. And really, what we've done since we were listed, we've always had very large ground holdings in what we consider prospective terrains. In the case of our projects right now in Australia, we've got 3 major ones. We're amongst the larger ground holdings in each of those terrains, and we've accumulated that ground over time. So we're basically almost in the shadow of the head frame, which is a phrase that I'm sure many of your listeners would have heard before. And it's a great place to be. The fundamentals are in place in terms of deep-seated geological features that you might be interested in. And our view has been, well, if you end up with a large amount of ground and you've got enough time and enough money, the odds are stacked in your favour that you've got a very good chance of making that big discovery, the next one. And so there's been lean times in that time, but right now, 2 of our 3 projects have got major discoveries nearby, and so as a result, there's a lot of interest in what we're doing and the ground that we've got. So we've got people knocking on our door for the first time ever, saying, "Oh, can we have a look at the ground that you've got?" Because we've ended up with this strategic ground holding. So people would look at us as, "Oh, got these big ground holdings everywhere," but we've always run, why don't you focus on one area, and stick with it? But we've also run what we'd call a target portfolio. So, out of those areas, we're looking to pick the eyes out of all of them and rank them against each other. So, with one project, the first 3, might be great, but in fact they're second tier relative to the first 2 in the other project. And so, our strategy always has been to sort of, pick the eyes out of these things. And certainly during the downturn, the 5-year downturn between, say, 2012, 2017, that kept us alive, because we had high graded all of these things, and we were able to sort of, the markets were so bad, sort of, almost switch and match to the market as much as anything else. But very much driven by where's the best place to put our money right now in this big portfolio. And that's really, what we've done and what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's the bit I'm trying to get to here, because it does seem to be a little switch and match, and we're going to adapt to whatever's hot in the market to stay alive, which is, I guess, partly the name of the game. But the name of the game is also to grow this thing. So if I just look at currently, obviously market cap around 35 million Aussie, you've got 2-cent share price. People, they're not getting the story at the moment. So what are they missing, do you think?
Well, they're getting a lot more than they were in March, when we were sort of down at about half a cent. So, we're kind of at record market cap. And look, let's face it, rising tide, lifts all boats. And, it's been an amazing 6 months, on the market. But look, as I said, we're here for the big win. We are the speculative junior. And that's what people give us money for. The presentations that I give to brokers and investors, it's like we're trying to give you the 10 bagger in a 1 year. It might take a long time to get to that 1 year, but this is what it's about. And so people are aware that this is a high risk game that we're in. So yeah, we're going to grow value. You can spout all you like about growing value and all that sort of stuff, adding ounces and resources and all that sort of stuff. But I've seen hundreds of companies in the time we've been listed come and go, telling, oh, we're going to add value, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they're gone, and they've got some half beaten up 50,000 ounce a year producer, and they go under. So that's not an avenue that we want to go down. We're here until the shareholders say no. We're here to say, look, we're going to go for the big win. And look, the projects that we've had them on the books a long time, but we've stuck with those projects. And so during the downturn, it was like, to raise money, it was like we were still picking the eyes out of those targets, and then didn't quite get the results. So, I mean, the thing about grassroots exploration is that, you can plug away for years, as we have done, and then, boom, out of nowhere, you get a massive discovery. And a prime example of that entire story would be De Grey Mining. I don't know whether you've done an interview with them. That's been one of the magnificent discoveries of the last decade, all happened mostly this year. And it's in an area that people have gone over, dozens of times. And at Western Mining, when I was there, it was a case of, there's nothing big in the Pilbara, in the north part of Western Australia. We won't bother even going looking there. And here we are 30 years later, and they find, minimum 5 million and possibly 10 million ounce deposit under 20 metres of cover. It's just that they didn't have the idea. So, but De Grey have taken 15 years, I think, to get to that stage, and they had these, I'll call it, if you don't mind me saying, half-assed resources, low grade, multiple pockets everywhere. Yeah, we're going to get going, we're going to add value. Didn't get there, and then had the discovery. So, our money's better off doing what we want to do, that we say we're going to do, and go for the big discovery. And that's what we're all about.
So, Ambassador, how long have you been at it? I get you want to liken yourself to De Grey because it's a great success story, okay? And it's everyone can point to De Grey and go, oh, we're going to be like that, right? Or a handful of other people who achieved similar things this year. But so how long have you been at it? How much money have you spent to get to this point? Because I think some people would accuse this of just being a lifestyle company because you're not getting on with the business of doing the things that you said, which perhaps don't always work, in your opinion, about creating shareholder value, answers in the ground, and all that kind of good stuff, which conventionally the market likes to see. So if you just give us the sort of the background. So how long have you been at it? How much money, first of all, and then if you don't mind, I'll ask some more questions.
Yeah, no, sure. Great question. So we listed in 2006. So we're here. So this is 14th year, and I think my what would it be 56th quarterly report for the ASX coming up, and we probably raised, I think, because we did the calculation relatively recently, including our recent raisings, we've raised about just under 45 mil that we spent in that time, and if you came to our office and sort of, saw the work that we do with the small team that we have and looked at the amount of money that's gone into the ground, you'd realise that, we're not a lifestyle company in that sense, because it's like, we're working flat out, especially at the moment. There's 3 of us in the office, and we've just completed a 15,000 metre, drill program. So, it's a case of keeping it small, trying to focus the money, getting going, and then, and hoping for that big win. And to do that, we do a lot of technical work in-house in order to, give ourselves the best chance of success. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, spend $45 million, market cap 35 today. How much cash are you sitting on?
So just it's about 3.3 million.
Okay, about 3.3 million. I mean, given it's since 2006 to today, 14 odd years, would you argue that you're employing the right business model? Because it's a long time. You say picking the eyes out of targets hasn't necessarily always worked for you. So have you been ever tempted to change the business model?
Yeah, near-term production type projects, which would be like a transformational type of deal, on numerous occasions, in that time. And everyone's looking for the unicorn project. That's what I've discovered, over the years. It's, it's got the right this, it's got the right that, it's got the right the other. And, our bent is always, so we've seen the projects that sort of come across the table and things. And really, there really wasn't much that we've found. But, I mean, other people have found other great deals, and other people have been into deepest, darkest wilds of the world and, done deals. And and done very well out of those, So, but we haven't found anything that we sort of felt comfortable with that had the right, at the right price and the right thing, and the right, right geology, right jurisdiction, in particular, nowadays, et cetera, et cetera. So look, I'll defend my record. I mean, there's a number of companies that floated in the 2000s that are like us. And in fact, a lot of them run by ex-WMC people like myself. And, we've got close. We've had a number of small discoveries. We've gone into, brave areas. We were in the uranium sector. We got hammered by Fukushima. That was the end of, 3 or 4 years, the first 4 years of our, of activity. And then the downturn came, so you've got to adapt and, survive, during that period. So, but we stuck to our knitting, during that time. We kept exploring, we raised money, we put money into the ground, we did drill campaigns. We found a small, high-grade resource. It still needs more work, but deep drill holes, et cetera, et cetera. So we've realised there's, on our own projects, there's a minimum return that you kind of need. So it's like, if we drill more deep drill holes into this and they don't deliver, that's a huge amount of money to risk. We need to look for a partner for this particular part of the project. But in the background, we've always been doing a lot of technical work, and I've believed 100% in the ground that we've held. We've had a lot of bits of ground, here and there over the years, and we've sold some and moved them on. But I've never picked up a project I didn't believe that had the potential. But you can't obviously hang on to all of the ground all the time. But Broken Hill and Commonwealth, which are our two key projects that we're working on right now, large ground holdings in well-known mineralised terrains. We've been actively drilling. We've got some fantastic targets. We're as close as we've ever been to delivering what we came to do, and that's what we're doing. Right now we raised $5 million this year. We've just spent probably a good 2.5 of that, smack bang on this drill program that we're just completing, and there'll be more drilling to come next year on the back of what we've discovered so far. So,
okay. Do you feel, Mike, that you need some quick wins just to kind of just calm everyone down a bit and just say, look, this is as close as we've ever been. This is a good target. And then, because again, you haven't got a lot of money available to you, just work out how you spend that in the most efficient way to either be able to go out and raise money again, or to attract a partner, or to farm it out, or whatever your plan is, just to get one in the bag. After 14 years, just get one in the bag and you've got some way of monetizing that, right? Is that, do you not feel that?
Yeah. So it's easy to say one in the bag, So what does one in the bag mean? Well, it actually means like a fantastic drill intercept, okay, which is what we're trying to do. If it was quick and easy, it's just like, we would have done it 14 years ago. But so it's like, so right now we're at a critical juncture in the sense that Broken Hill done a lot of drilling, got some really very interesting results. We're the first people to crack the secret of PG exploration in Broken Hill after 40 years of exploration. And we've made some huge strides there. And then we've generated this very significant porphyry copper gold target in Commonwealth, which I would rank higher than the stuff at Broken Hill. So we're fast tracking that at the moment, and we're creating a lot of interest, to that. So that's where the thing is. So people say, you're jumping from one to the other, but it's really a case of, look, there are two fantastic targets here. We've only got so much money. Where now is the breakthrough? The stuff at Broken Hill, we've got a major looking at that. We'll put all that data together. We've still got assays to come, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, whilst all that's going together, bam, we're ready to go. We've got the money. Let's go and drill the first drill holes ever into this target. And people know me. I don't say things I don't believe in. It is probably one of the, if not the best target that I've ever generated or we've ever seen. So for porphyry coppers, probably the death knell. But the worst thing you can do with a target is drill it. So we're right at that crucial juncture. I remember I could sell it for $1 million, and then we find ourselves again in 12 months, going through the same thing again.
Okay, but copper. Okay, so let's talk about your projects now. So you kind of we've sort of danced around some of the background. All right, let's talk about some of the projects. You talk about Broken Hill. You got Commonwealth and Red Hill as well. So when you say copper porphyries, I think a lot of money. You need a lot of money to drill that out, to understand it, to move that forward. So what's the plan with that one?
Yeah, look, porphyries, people talk them about being a company maker, and they potentially are, but it probably won't be you that actually develops a proper porphyry copper deposit. There are obviously porphyries and porphyries, and so we've got alkane resources, and what's fired up a lot of the market attention on a Commonwealth project is alkane resources Boda discovery, which is the first sort of decent copper gold intercept in the Lachlan Fold Belt in 40 years since Katie Ridgeway was found, and we're right next door to them, and that sort of set off everyone. There's been a rush in that area. It's still got a long way to run. But then there's also Staveley resources. They've had a significant porphyry copper discovery in Younger Rocks in the Devonian out in Victoria, and that's a slightly different style. There's some high-grade epithermal, copper silver mineralisation that they're finding now, stuff like that. So easy to generalise and sort of say, porphyry copper's big and all the rest of it. There's always nuances in there. If we find something that's like a porphyry copper, we'll keep going until someone taps us on the shoulder, and if it's good enough, somebody will do that. And you just take it as far as you possibly can. But as an example of what can happen, Actually, I'll take a step back. If we go back to De Grey, I mean, De Grey's raised a huge amount of money, on the back of, the massive discovery. Drilling out a 5 million ounce gold deposit, isn't really much different to drilling out, a porphyry copper deposit if it's near surface. Obviously, if it's 500 metres below surface, that's a different story. And that's a point of discrimination between ourselves and, say, Boda, because Boda is actually 350, 400 metres below surface at the moment. Nothing close to surface. So it's like, you're asking for, that's a lot of dollars if you're a junior company. So if it ended up being that deep.
So how much are you throwing at that? How much money?
So we'll probably put about $500,000 to $750,000 into that project. I was thinking initially we might be able to just drill a couple of holes into the sort of the core where the geochemistry is that we've identified, the surface geochemistry. But we've just received back our geophysics results on IP, induced polarization, which is designed to sort of light up finely spread sulfide that you get around these porphyry coppers and stick enough current into them and they kind of light up like a Christmas tree. And so we've just got those results back, and they're nothing short sort of extraordinary, really, and in particular when compared to the geochemistry and the scale and the size of this thing is like, okay, surely there has to be something under this one. So as a result, we're expanding the drill program, and just referring back to Stavely, there's indications at sort of one end that we might be getting into that kind of epithermal, vein style near surface type thing, which is, perhaps a bit easier to drill out and develop, for a junior. So, yeah.
Okay, so $750,000 over what period of time, and what do you need to show at the end of that process, you think, to either, one, attract the market enough to give you some more money, or two, have someone tap you on the shoulder and go, I tell you what, let's do something together?
Yeah. It's very clear. So we need to get a clear indication of a couple of things. If we're lucky, bam, we slot the winning drill hole because it's close to surface. That's great. There's no problem there. But one of the things that's happened in porphyry copper exploration and will almost certainly lead to other significant discoveries in the region. It's now a lot easier to generate the data that you require to understand where you are in the system in terms of the minerals around it, how far away you are, the metal assemblages. And you can generate that data really cheaply, really easily, in a very short period of time. Going back to 30 years ago, we had the ability to sort of do a lot of that stuff, but it would take you months or a year to get that data back. Whereas now, one of the great advantages of technology is we're taking off on the technology curve in the mining industry, is that we can almost compete with the larger companies in terms of the rate at which we can generate data, and also the sense that we can make of it. And so these porphyry systems are actually really well understood. So the worst case scenario, or second worst case scenario, obviously the worst case scenario, there's nothing there, it's just all smoke and mirrors. The second best case scenario is that we basically identify that we've actually got this carapace, this altar, and we're at the top of something, that is much deeper. And that's the sort of thing that people might say, oh, well, now we'll tap on the shoulder, and see even then. But I suspect even if we generate that, we're bold enough to go, okay, let's drill the big one, and go underneath. And if you look at Stavely, I mean, there's a prime example of persistence there. Stavely were drilling these, 1,000-metre drill holes, and just coming up with, very little, and all credit to them, because it was eventually 200 metres along strike, very close to surface. They found, the thing that turned the whole thing around. So look, that's what we're hoping. I would say it'll take 6 to 8 weeks of drilling. Results pretty soon after that. I mean, the labs are getting full, but a lot of the things you can do with a handheld XRF nowadays, are very relevant to porphyry exploration, and you can identify a lot of the things that you need almost on the fly. And we're doing that on our PGE exploration at the moment, and it's revolutionised things. So yeah. Okay,
so like I say, so at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, great. Assays, I understand in Perth there's a few delays. It's up to 7-8 weeks at the moment in the assay labs. At the end of the period, when you know what you've got, what are you and the board discussing doing at that point? Are you going to go and say, hey, we need to put more money into this thing? Are you already in conversations with other companies about coming in and helping share the load?
Yeah, we've got a group reviewing the data, but really all we have is soil geochemistry data and some airborne magnetic data, because there's never been any drilling there. And now the geophysics.
Right.
So, it's a case of it is what it is. It's a target that requires drilling, and who's brave enough to drill it? But it would have to be a very generous offer for me not to drill that thing ourselves, because that's the type of target that we came to find and drill, and that's and so we're going to do it. So it would have to be a pretty hefty offer to stop me drilling.
I think that's
target.
I think that's where I'm going with this. Is as in, it's not a lot of money being spent on it. It's still very early days, and you've got limited funds. So I'm like saying, so what's the decision making? What do you need to see, and what do you think you need to see to say, okay, we're going to put another $500,000 in there, we're going to put another 750,000 in there?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll just explain it in a way. It's like, we need to see obvious signs of mineralisation, but importantly, work out where we are in that system. So we need to do, if we don't get initial indications of high-grade mineralisation, you need to balance up how much money you then spend to work out where we are in the system. And I'll use an example. Magmatic Resources at the moment, Kincora, TSX listed company, they've both been plugging away for months now with their drilling, and haven't delivered the results. And it's a porphyry system, like ours, and and they're sort of almost getting the impression they're scratching their heads really about where they are in the system, but they kind of understand where they are. But they're saying, okay, we've got to drill another hole. But these are, again, for those guys, these are the deep drill holes. So and the market's got a short memory, and let's be frank as well. And the last results from Boda, were a little bit disappointing, I think, for most of the market, because they're large, low-grade intercepts and they're drilling 1,000-metre drill holes. And again, it's fine for Alkane because they're spending money out of Tomingley. So, so they've got the funding to be able to do that, and they've got the wherewithal to do it. But you can't drill, Impact wouldn't be able to drill those sort of holes.
Okay.
So, one scenario is, look, we worked out with the top. It's 500 metres below us, 700 metres, 800 metres below us. Does somebody want to come and drill hole?
Okay, should we go to Broken Hill? What's happening there?
Yeah. So Broken Hill is famous mainly for being home to the world's sort of largest silver lead zinc deposit, Broken Hill itself. And that mine's been operating there for 150 years, I guess. But it's lesser well known that it's actually got these relatively modest size ultramafic intrusions that are dripping with very high grade nickel, copper and PGEs. And so they've been known about for a long time. People have sort of gone in there and had a look at them, done a bit of drilling in a few of the areas, or one area in particular, Platinum Springs, nothing in the other areas. But I was always intrigued by these things when I first came across them. And so we've just completed the first serious drill campaign by anybody in the 40 years of exploration on the three main prospects that have been well known about for nickel, copper, PGEs. And the results are starting to come in, and we've made some pretty significant advances there. And that's sort of coming together, yeah. So we're pretty happy, and we can talk more about that.
Well, yeah, please do. Talk us through some of the grades, because we've seen a few presentations, a few press releases.
Yeah. No, look. So take a step back. The thing that was of great interest to me when I first came across this project was that the area contains very high grades of all of the 6 PGEs. So normally it's either palladium or platinum, but this has got exceptional grades of palladium. It's a palladium-rich system. Excellent grades of platinum, but it's also got grams of osmium, iridium, ruthenium, and rhodium, and you can count probably on the fingers of one hand on how many areas of the world that you get those 6 metals together. And it tells you that something very special was happening deep in the Earth's crust when these things were coming up, the depth which they've come from and how they've actually got to the surface. And it's like, well, okay, that's an unusual, that's a very unusual situation. And one of the things about finding big, unusual deposits is that if you imagine a bell curve of distribution of deposit styles, where's the big ones? The things that no one's looked for, the things that are different. They're out here on the bell curve, and Broken Hill is out there. And that's really what's always attracted me, to it. I mean, porphyry coppers, but some of the big breakthroughs are made by looking for things that people haven't looked for before. And so at Broken Hill, we already had that set up. So we've done a lot of work over 5 years since we first drilled there on the nature of these rocks, where the chemistry is, where they've come from, what their age is. It hasn't cost us a lot of money, and also we get an R&D rebate for that. So we get 45% of the money that we spent back. But the 150 grand we've spent on that over sort of the 5 years has paid back in spades in terms of understanding the nature and the geometry of these rocks. So we'd identified 3 areas. There's called Platinum Springs, which has been where all the previous drilling has been, apart from 2 holes which have been done at Red Hill, and then there've been basically no work of significance apart from some shallow auger drilling at the Little Broken Hill Gabbro. And so we drilled a couple of places 5 or 6 years ago, got some spectacular results in some veins. We were getting 10 ounces of palladium in a vein at Red Hill. And at Platinum Springs, we got sort of 1.5 ounces of palladium and platinum, 5 or 6 grams of the other PGEs, 7% copper, 7% nickel, and in beautiful massive sulfide. And it's also got 1.5 grams of gold and 1.5 ounces of silver. It's the world's perfect precious metal, base metal ore body. And it's probably the highest dollar per tonne ore in Australia, if we can find more of it. So these magmatic nickel copper sulfide systems are not straightforward. You've got to kind of understand them. And in particular, these ones, they're PGE rich. And so when they're PGE rich, you run into a problem that you can't see the mineralisation. You've got to send it to the lab, and wait weeks and weeks for it to come back. But in the start of this program, as a result of all the work that we did, we made a huge breakthrough in the chemistry of these systems, which has allowed us to make a rough estimate of the PGE grade in these rocks before we send them to the lab and whilst we're actually drilling using a handheld XRF machine. And it's actually hard to describe how much of a breakthrough that is. I don't know anybody else who's doing it, to be honest. So they might be doing it behind closed doors. We're the only people sort of talking about it. And that has actually been allowed us then to we've actually got PGEs in this rock. Okay, let's keep drilling. And so the program that was going to be sort of 8,000 or 10,000 metres has now turned into 15,000. And even though we're months away from getting all the results back, it's because I know for a fact there's going to be PGE in these rocks. And so we can sort of, in the broadest sense, decide where we're going to drill next. So as a result, we started in July and we're finishing next week. So it's a 5-month program that it's been. And each of the 3 prospects, we've made some huge sort of breakthroughs. So at Platinum Springs, we now have a really good understanding of the geometry, the orientation, the chemistry, and the whole physics of the system, and which is then going to allow us to sort of follow these shoots that we found and defined, or take a step back and look for areas because only one area of, say, 1 kilometre strike of a 9 kilometre long body that hosts these things has ever been tested. There's been no drilling of significance, 2 drill holes in the rest of the 8 kilometres. And so it's wide open, but people have not been able to get the mineralisation to hang together. And we're the first people to do that there. So that's a massive breakthrough.
Yeah.
But Red Hill, same thing. We had these very high grade things in a vein underneath this thing. Those really haven't panned out that much, but we've now made some big breakthroughs inside the host thing. And we know where the big deep drill hole is going to go and test that one. And at Little Broken Hill Gabbro, which is probably, again, in terms of prioritising prospects, that's probably the big one. It's the same age, chemistry, and formed in the same place as Jinshuan, which is the world's probably 2nd largest massive sulfide ore body, 500 million tonnes. And that's got huge potential there. One shallow drill hole, 120 metres, didn't get anywhere near the target horizon. So we're now demonstrating that thing is alive and kicking over probably 6 kilometres of strike in the basal unit. It's dripping with PGEs, and we know that from our ratio, and also we're getting some copper and nickel hits. Nothing that I would call a discovery yet, but it is quite clear that both Little Broken Gamma and Platinum Spring, they host millions of ounces of PGEs. It's just at low grades. The question is, where's the trap? And that's the focus of our work, where we're going to home in on the ore body that's got that. And these things aren't difficult; they take time and money, as I said.
They do take time, and they will take money. And I'm listening to you, and I'm going,
yeah.
You're in love with the process and the geology. I can hear that coming through loud and clear. You're going to have to get a little bit in love with the market too, because like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to follow at times. And everything's got great comps and potential, and you can point to lots of other people's successes out everywhere. But you need to be able to point to a discovery or to something that you're going to focus on. To get the market going again and believe that you're on their side, because shareholders make money, when the share price goes up and they can maybe cash in. You need that liquidity in the company. You need to get that interest going again. So how are you going to show them the love and excitement on that side of the business too?
Yeah, well, look, the only thing that it comes down to is delivering the drill results. That's where the excitement comes from in the junior explorer. I mean, if I go out and then joint venture it, I can tell you half of the shareholders will be pissed off because I'm giving it away, and then the other half will be going, oh, great, he's saving money. There's not as much dilution, so it's kind of a no-win situation in that case in terms of the shareholders. So my job is to balance it up. So right, okay, where are we sitting here? And well, one thing I've learned over the 14 years is that my job is actually more constant management of the downside. It's like, because we're in exploration, the chances are that the next drill hole probably won't come in, so it's like the next drill program won't deliver what you're going to deliver. And because we're genuine about what we do, we're passionate about what we do, it's like, right, okay, if this doesn't come in, what's the fallback to make sure that we protect the shareholders as best as we can in the worst case scenario? It's like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we've got this other great project and we're going to bring that one up, or if we get enough here to say, this is worth us spending more money on, and when we put all this stuff together, we've got a Broken Hill, I can tell you we need to spend more money on it, but balancing that up against Commonwealth, it's like, right, okay, I don't want to blow all of my money in one, in one massive, drill campaign. So we have a major evaluating Broken Hill at the moment, and so that's haven't made that. It's just just in case anyone from the ASX is watching, we haven't made any announcements of that. It's just they've just knocked on the door. They're just looking at the data. There's been no discussions of deals or anything. They're going to do a field trip, blah blah blah. But they make a living. People in business. I like to say, actually, my chairman likes to say, people in business development have to justify their roles. And so they travel the world seeing all of these projects, and then they get to the end. Oh, actually, I like the first one, and we go back around the whole the whole thing again. So so these guys and these business development things, they've got to justify their living. So it doesn't really mean anything. So look, we've got somebody there, so that's great. We've done enough work, to entice a major finance, and they approached us. We didn't go to them. They knocked on the door and said, "Hey, we're interested." So so we're on the right we're on the right track. I think in that respect. So we will, we're making an assessment when all the data's in. Okay, well, where is there some way that we can focus? We know what the processes are. What does that mean? Where can we focus and see where the trap is? So but with Commonwealth, balancing that up, so well, for $750,000, we stand a really good chance of nailing something hugely significant in the first 6 drill holes. So it's it's kind of a no-brainer that you spend the money there over Broken Hill in the next round of work that we've done. Yeah.
Okay, so you've heard the phrase "there's no money in the middle," and I think sometimes it applies in business too, in the sense that you've got to be very clear with what you are in the marketplace. And you talk about being a high-grade mineral exploration company behind you on that poster. Do you think people understand your business plan, or are you still just trying to work out what it is that you need to be successful in the market?
Forgive me if I'm answering the same question again, but I mean, we know what we need to do. to be successful in the market, which is deliver a major exploration success, a world-class ore body. That's what we're here for. And many of my peers at the time in other companies are trying to do the same thing, and there's a number of us that haven't quite got there yet. And if people don't want me to do that, and direct the company in a different way, then that's fine. I've done my role, and somebody else can come in and we can vend a project, an advanced project in that's going to be in production in 5 years and cost $50 million to bring into production. So and that's fine. I'd be at peace with that because we're giving it a good shot. But over the years, we've been through waves and sort of had, as I say, we've had small discoveries that we found ourselves. We've extended things, and they just haven't quite got that little bit of extra luck that you kind of need. So one of my mentors at WNC, Doug Haynes, Dr. Doug Haynes, a very world famous geologist, primarily one of the two people responsible for Olympic Dam, discovered Olympic Dam and numerous other ore bodies, and very intense, passionate geologist. And he always said, serendipity, Mike, serendipity. You just need that little bit of luck to give you the edge, and who knows where that luck comes from. But you often make your own luck, and we try and make our own luck by taking quite a technical approach to the entire project, where the phrase we use quite often in Impact, and it's like you need to do the proper work properly. And over the years, and I've been a consultant on 80 projects plus, and you go into these places and they've either given up too early, they've used the wrong technique, or they don't really understand the geology. And one of the reasons we're seeing successes being made in old terrains nowadays is because people are getting, the technology is allowing us to get more data more quickly and actually interpret that data. And we're making breakthroughs in these old areas. And, you might get lucky with the one drill hole, wander out in the middle of nowhere and there's a brand new discovery, great on gold, those sort of things. Although that's obviously near, how new an area that is a different thing. So you need to take that approach in order to give yourself the best chance of success. It might cost a little bit more, but the results are there. So if you're going to walk away from the project, right, I've actually demonstrated this system is dead, or it's never going to form a big deposit, and you can walk away, confidently. Otherwise, as we used to say, the best project you can get nowadays is one that Western Mining had, because a lot of them ended up with mines on them, but admittedly, not many world-class mines. So yeah. So that in a nutshell, we are who we are. We're a technical approach. We're known for our, geological skills and the marketplace. Hot Copper's always rabbiting on about that, and we're here for the big win. It's a very straightforward, business case. So.
Brilliant. And just on because it's been around for, what's the kind of share count, and how many shares have you got, for instance, and the management team? How much are you sitting on?
Yeah. So we've got, in terms of direct equity, we've got only about 3% in direct equity, but we're incentivized with options, some of those are actually in the money for the first time, and because we've had options over the years, and look, and that would be the case, and unless somebody else is coming in and vending a project in, we're at that stage, and there's many companies like us, around that are like that. It would be easy for me to actually start another company, just get another bunch of projects and start another company that's got 8, it might have 8, 10% or something like that in that, and then go around again. But it's like, well, I'm here to try and help the shareholders. There's been a lot of people invested in me over the years to try and show them, look, we're here for the right reason. We're trying to do this thing. We're good enough to find something. If I was in it strictly for the money or the lifestyle, I'd have gone off and started 2 or 3 other companies and just been a serial starter. But if you don't have the right project, I could go and get another whole lot of exploration projects. Are they any better than the ones we've already got? But if I see a good exploration project that somebody else has got, that I think I should have, I'd rather bring that into Impact than then keep it to myself and start another company. So I've got a bit of an issue with some of these guys that are, you know, doing stuff left, right, and left, right, and centre, in terms of, well, you know, and we've just done 2 deals, you know, recently, brought in some small things into the company. One is a small strategic acquisition with our third large project, which is an application, and the other one was just a walk-up drill target, gold target. It was actually, funnily enough, done by Western Mining in the late 90s. It was like, oh shit, we need to drill this. You can't walk away from this. And you say, well, that's another project you've got on. You know, well, there was another one I looked at that I turned down, the people that somebody else picked up. And this week they've just announced some really good drill results into that same project. So can't be everywhere doing everything. But you know, every now and again you've got to take something, you know, a little extra. So going back to your question, you know, I'm incentivized by options. If we get the shares, if we make a big win and our market cap, you know, quintuples from here, that's, you know, it would have been as much money as I would make in year 2 when we listed, when I had a lot more, you know, direct equity. So
brilliant, Mike. Look, I appreciate you running through that story. Exciting times, especially with the PGEs. It's a kind of hot market at the moment. So stay in touch. Let us know how you get on with the drilling, because I think that's, as you say, the success is going to come through the drill bit.
Yeah, no, that's great, Matt. And I will say, given it's the first interview, I've actually enjoyed it because you do ask tough questions. Perhaps I wasn't expecting many tough questions, and as I actually got, and so I appreciate that. That's good. And you know, so hopefully, you know, we're as transparent as you could possibly be. So that's it's good to be on, and hopefully we'll do it again.